So I've just had a great stroll through the vineyards at Petaluma. Now Petaluma was one of the pioneers in Adelaide Hills, and I'm here with winemaker Peter Dredge, and he's going to give us the goods on why Chardonnay tastes the way it does up here in the hills. Why is it so good here for Chardonnay up in the Adelaide Hills? How does that cool climate contribute to the character?
Well, cool climate is integral in retaining natural acidity, and as you saw in the vineyard out here, we do manipulate the angle of the sun, so it is very cool. In cool areas it takes a longer time for the vines to ripen and the grapes to reach full flavour maturity, but we do have aspects which give us enough sun to get that ripeness, but also retains a high level of natural acidity. And this is integral in a fresh, vibrant Chardonnay style with long length and complexity all the way to the bottle.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's what I like so much about Adelaide Hills Chardonnay, is that lovely sort of backbone of acidity. But do you think there's a specific flavour that Adelaide Hills is imparting? Or I guess with all these different aspects, it must be difficult to sort of pinpoint a certain flavour. But is there something that you think is specific to Adelaide Hills?
We source our Chardonnay just from the Piccadilly Valley. It's the coolest valley within the Adelaide Hills, and over the years a lot of people have said they've seen a lot of white peach, so stone fruits, nectarine, these sort of fruits, but on the whiter side, the high natural acidity side. Very fresh, very long on the palate.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's such a stunningly beautiful area. And I can see as we go through the vineyards here, you've got all these little pockets, these individual vineyard sites, and one thing that I've always found fascinating about the great vineyards of the world, all those different sites quite often impart a certain flavour. You know, the French refer to as terroir. Is there a specific terroir in these vineyards here that you particularly like?
We do think Piccadilly is particularly unique. We source from around 7 distinguished vineyards, so by vineyard I mean you can look at the rolling hills just here, so this will be a parcel which we'll produce separately. Just over the back of the hill here is another parcel we'll produce separately, and we have very different soil profiles through here in the Adelaide Hills. It's an ancient upsurge. We have a huge variety of soil types, and also in undulation as far as gullies and natural altitude as well. So you start to build the complexity. What we do is we vinify each block separately, and then we have a look at these aspects and see what's strong to those particular parcels, and then at the end what we can do is get out our palettes and paint a picture of what we think is the best blend within that Chardonnay.
Yeah, that's always fascinating to me, because people view the word blending as something inherently negative, but what you're doing is taking the bits and pieces from each of these parcels you like best, that you think, you know, the sum of the parts is better than the individual sort of expression.
Yeah, I mean ultimately it's one varietal. It's from Piccadilly as well, but there's subtle nuances which differ within different aspects and throughout this whole valley. And what we try and do is, you know, we're fascinated by it. We take it to a very small level, but in the end that gives us more options at the end to try and hone in on that perfect Chardonnay.
So we were talking about aspect a little bit earlier, and I think this is a perfect vineyard to look at that because of the way it's contoured and shaped. And how does that sort of aspect affect the actual flavours in this bottled wine? Because you said the backbone of this particular wine we're about to taste pretty much comes from this block here.
It does. We're right in the heart of the Petaluma Chardonnay here. If this was a flat piece of land in this cool climate, we wouldn't ripen these grapes. These are facing north, and you can just see now they're very exposed to the sun as it starts to set in the west. So if you have a look here, we're getting cool climate fruit, but also plenty of sun exposure, plenty of sun for the leaves, and that's what makes a balanced wine. Good fruit expression, high acidity.
So when you say cool climate fruit, you mean slightly smaller berries? Is that the idea in cool climate? Is that what happens, or what do you mean by that?
So here we do have small berries, but this is for very concentrated flavour. It's all hand-tended, this vineyard, so hand-pruned, hand-picked, etc. We do various things in the vineyard to try and maximise quality.
Let's put it to the test. Enough discussion, it's time for a glass.
It's 2009 just here, not quite ready, but here's one I prepared earlier.
Ideal. Yeah, that lovely nose you talked about, that sort of nectarine thing. I think I can really kind of get that. Yeah, that's fantastic. So that may be a nice sort of little flavour profile to take forward, is a nectarine kind of character.
Absolutely. See that? You see that lovely melon fruit, very rich, complex, but that long acid on the palate.
Well, not sure I wasn't a convert before I got here, but I certainly am now. Here's to Adelaide Hills Chardonnay. Cheers, mate.